You're muted, of course.
Looks like a nice office, Roy.
Roy, you are muted.
Okay,
I
Mr.
think
Marshall.
Roy had some trouble getting unmuted once before, didn't he? Do I recall correctly? Does he know the
Now,
spacebar technique?
yeah, now we've got two windows for Roy.
Oh boy.
I suspect that's Roy.
We
Now
still
I've
have
got three. No, I've got two windows.
two windows. Roy, can you turn your camera off for a second and I might be able to figure out which one of those you're using and which one.
Yeah, we have two windows for you, Roy, at the moment.
Okay, now there's one. Okay. All right. Fingers crossed. I'm going to try and ask this one to leave us alone.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we could hear
Yeah.
you with all that reverb.
You're getting a lot of.
Well, the reverb is because you've got feedback from having
Yeah.
two systems operating in the same room.
I'm going to remove this one. Whoop. Oh gosh, I hardly dare, but here we go. Remove.
That's fine.
Don't report. Okay. Roy, can you hear us? Can you hear me? Can you see us? Can you unmute?
I'm asking him if he can hear us to nod his head.
He can.
Okay.
How's that?
That's good, Roy.
That's good.
Sorry about that. I'm still figuring out this technology. I tried to open up another screen and didn't work. So
No, it'll never
I
work.
get it now.
Yeah, it seems to work best with just one. Okay, Pam, are we good to go?
We are good to go. Let's see. We have attendees coming. We have Amherst Media with us, and you have a quorum of the board. Yes, we're good to go.
All right. Okay, welcome to the Amherst Planning Board meeting of August 5th, 2026. My name is Doug Marshall, and as chair of the Amherst Planning Board, I'm calling this meeting to order at 6:37 p.m. This meeting is being recorded and is available live stream via Amherst Media, and minutes are being taken. During the Planning Board's public hearing for zoning bylaw Article 18, Clean Energy Infrastructure, some members of the Community Resource Committee of the Town Council may be available to join the discussion. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, extended by Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, and further extended by Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, this meeting will be conducted via remote means using the Zoom platform. The Zoom meeting link is available on the meeting agenda, posted on the town website's calendar listing for this meeting. No in-person attendance of the public is permitted. However, every effort will be made to ensure the public can access the meeting in real time via technological means. In the event public access is disrupted for reasons of economic hardship or despite our best efforts, we will post an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting on the town's website. Board members, I will take a roll call. When you hear your name, unmute yourself, answer affirmatively, and return to mute. Bruce Coldham. Thank you, Bruce. Fred Hartwell.
Present.
Thank you. Jesse Major will be absent this evening. I, Doug Marshall, am present. Angus McLeod is also absent this evening. Roy Johnson.
Present.
Thank you, Roy. And Jarrah Smith will be with us as soon as he is able. It should be just in a few minutes. We have 4 members of our 7-member board present, which is a quorum, so we will proceed. During the meeting, if technical issues arise and the discussion needs to pause, it will be noted in the minutes. please use the raise hand function to ask a question or make a comment, and I will call on you to speak. After speaking, remember to remute yourself. To the general public, please indicate you wish to make a public comment by clicking the raise hand button when solicited. If you have joined the Zoom meeting using a telephone, please indicate you wish to make a comment by pressing *9 on your phone. When called on, please identify yourself by stating your full name and address and put yourself back into mute when finished speaking. Residents can express their views for up to 3 minutes or at the discretion of the planning board chair. If a speaker does not comply with these guidelines or exceeds their allotted time, their participation may be disconnected from the meeting. All right, first item on our agenda is the public comment period. The time is 6:40, and I will say that the public comments are now solicited for items that do not appear later on tonight's agenda. So if you have a comment about the East Amherst Historic District, or a comment about the Clean Energy Bylaw, or anything else that appears later on our agenda, this is not the time to make that comment. So, members of the public, if you want to make a comment at this time, please raise your hand. This is also the time when I usually read the names of the public attendees that I can see, just so everybody knows who else is in the virtual room. So while I'm reading, please raise your hand if you want to make a public comment. I see Andy Churchill, Elizabeth Sharp, just Greenbaum, Hetty Startup, Jennifer Taub, Ken Rosenthal, Maura Keene, Samuel Bedry, Steve Bloom, and Tom Reedy. And I'm well aware that several of those people are here to be brought in as participants or panel members when we talk about later items on the agenda. All right, so I don't see anyone raising their hand at this point, so I'm now concluding that no one wants to make a public comment about anything that's not on tonight's agenda later. All right, so time now is 6:42, and we'll go to the next item on the agenda. This is the East Amherst Local Historic District proposal. Review proposed revisions for the East Amherst Historic District. So Pam, could we bring over the, I think at least the chair of the commission and anybody else that you're aware of needs to be part of this conversation?
Definitely Steve Bloom. And I
Is
think
it
Elizabeth
just
Sharp.
Steve?
I think Elizabeth Sharp and maybe Hetty's, or maybe not Hetty.
So I
Maybe.
see Elizabeth Sharp and Steve had raised their hands. So maybe bring over Elizabeth too.
She's been invited. Let's see, here she
Okay.
comes.
Steve, I see your hand. I'd ask you to turn on your video if you have any.
I don't know how to, oh, here it is. Sorry.
And welcome, Elizabeth.
There I am. Okay, thank you.
All right. So welcome to our meeting. And I guess I'd like to know, would you like to make a presentation of any sort of the proposal and introduce the topic?
Yes, I would if I could, please.
Okay.
So Walker, if it's possible, is there any way to put up the list of the core properties in the map?
Yeah, give me just a sec. I can share my screen.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for putting us first. I have a lot of respect for you guys after listening to the last two meetings. My hat's off to you. Anyway, I wrote a statement that's pretty long, and I'm going to assume that you guys have read it, so I don't have to go through it. the most of it was, kind of addressing Mr. Smith's memo,
Mhm.
kind of questioning, LHDs as a concept, but I don't want to go there. I just want to deal with, what we've done. So I'm just going to limit myself to the last part of my statement, which I would like to read. So anyway, in retrospect, as the planning board correctly pointed out, the original boundaries of the proposed East Amherst LHD were probably an overreach. Many of the properties, although among the oldest in town, have been altered beyond recognition, and at this juncture are irredeemable. In our defense, as with the other two LHDs in Amherst, the commission was guided by the boundaries of the already existing National Register District, which is a significant but mostly honorific designation. And in fact, it was town staff who advocated for the LHD to include a few more properties along the perimeter of the National Register District. The proposed East Amherst LHD is a different kettle of fish than the other two LHDs in Amherst. Both the Dickinson and North Prospect Lincoln Sunset LHDs were initiated by the residents of the district. It was bottom up, so to speak. Why this one is top down, this is not a case of NIMBYism. None of the commission members live within or have any interest in the proposed LHD. The study was initiated at the suggestion of the town manager, who expressed concerns about the increasing vulnerability of Amherst's oldest and most historic existing structures. This was not an endeavor which the LHD Commission sought, but one which it undertook somewhat trepidatiously. It is the culmination of 3 years of research and deliberation. Listening to the planning board's concerns, we've narrowed the proposed LHD down from 55 properties to a core group of 22, not including the East Amherst Commons, which is owned by the town. Walker, can we actually see the map? That'd probably be more useful.
Yeah.
I just see the list of the properties. Okay, thanks. Except for one property, the East Street School, which was erected in 1894, the properties selected date from before the Civil War, date all the way back to the 1700s, before the country even existed. They exhibit contemporaneously architectural styles to one another and possess great historic significance. The selected properties are close together, most of them situated around a single intersection, and comprise a compressed area. If you look at the map, it speaks for itself. The blue on the outside is what we originally proposed. The blue colored lots are what we're proposing now. We've excluded non-conforming properties and open spaces as much as possible, particularly the empty lot on the northeastern corner of Northeast and Main Streets for future modern development. I don't know if you can identify that big lot. Walker, there you go, that's it, okay. We feel this is a good and fair compromise which serves the best interests of the town we all share and love. While we don't need the planning board's stamp of approval to proceed, we believe securing it will set an excellent example of how governance should function. Before closing, I'd like to add that there's a lot of talk these days about Destination Amherst. We contend that a town's history and historic character matter, especially the character of a town's core. Because of its association with Emily Dickinson and Amherst College, Amherst is lucky enough to have a nationally and internationally known brand. History is a major part of our brand and appeal. Character, charm, and uniqueness, the cool factor, attracts prospective residents and visitors alike. An LHD dedicated to preserving and protecting our historic legacy at such an important location, the gateway to our brand new elementary school, is very much in the economic interest of Amherst. This is not a wide swath of properties, but a small pocket, surely not an impediment to townwide growth. Again, it's the oldest part of Amherst. Life will go on if the proposed LHD, modest and old as it is not ultimately approved, but the character and fabric of our town will be irreversibly diminished. Our living and ever-evolving history is what makes this place, and not like every other place. So anyway, we did, some of these property, we limited it to like properties that are in good shape, that haven't been significantly altered. Every single property that we've selected is historically significant and or architecturally very significant. So we've listened to you guys, and we think this is a very fair and reasonable proposal, which is in the best interest of the town. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Steve. Elizabeth, was there anything you wanted to say? By the way, I'll mention that Jarrah Smith has now joined the meeting. He joined at 6:47.
Yes, I would like to speak. What I'd like to do is make four small points about why this why this section of town is significant and why it should be preserved in this way. So the fact that the East Amherst this area is still intact and looks the way it does is pretty remarkable, and it's unusual for most towns. So it should be celebrated and embraced. Now, two of the buildings were built before Amherst was even Amherst. So that's 1754 and 58, and they should be definitely considered part of this district. This, as Steve said, is the first village settlement, the first post office, and it's a town common which still exists in its original shape. So a second point is that what is now the Jewish Community Center was the Second Congregational Church. When the church was first built, it was Steve is telling me I should identify myself as a historian, both in training and in practice. That when it was first, when the Second Congregational Church was established, it was the Patriot Church. It was a break off from the church in the on the West Common, that these which held most of the loyalists in town. So 1784, that was the Patriot Church. And among them was Ebenezer Mattoon Jr., and who had fought in the Revolution. So this is the third point. This is where really, in effect, where Shays Rebellion was hatched. I think of it as close to the room where it happened as we could possibly get. And so what happened is that when Shays and some of his compatriots came down the hill from Pelham and met at a tavern, which no longer exists, which was about where Fort River School is, that's where they were hatching it. And Ebenezer Mattoon was among them, and his house is still intact. It looks very much like it did, and that is also on the East Common. So in Amherst, 113 men had to take the oath of allegiance to the United States because they were involved in this. So Amherst was really one of the biggest players in this, and just by comparison, Northampton had no one. So, and fourth thing I will add is that the layer of industry in Amherst coming in the early 19th century is really sort of laid right on top of it and in between the various sites of it. And so I think that's kind of remarkable that in this time period that some of these still exist. So, so to repeat sort of what Steve said, some of the house forms are original. They're still there. They're on their same sites. And this is very unusual. And we should celebrate it as all these different things happened right here. And I think it's pretty easy to create a small historic district around them because the properties are still in such good shape. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, board members, let's see. Steve, your hand is up again.
Yeah, Elizabeth is, I just wanted to mention who Elizabeth is. Elizabeth is the co-head of Historic Northampton, a trained historian, the author of an acclaimed book on the Mill River flood, and also literally the author of the book Amherst A to Z. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Sure. All right. Well, let's see. Bacher, was it back in the spring that we deliberated about the first proposal?
Yes, it has been a bit. I think it was April, maybe.
Okay, and so we've had one member leave the board, and we've had one new member join it since that discussion. Bruce.
I guess I should identify myself as also being a member of the local historic district commission, and I was not present at that April meeting, though I have looked at the recording of the meeting, so I know what happened and what the discussion was and so forth. Mostly, I just wanted to do that. So I've been a part of the thought process that Steve mentioned for the 3 or so years that this has been incubating. I was disappointed that I wasn't able to be part of the conversation because I was in Europe. But actually, I think that it was possibly just as well that I wasn't part of it, because I think the trajectory has gone well, both with what the outwash of the earlier board deliberation and the response and the reaction from the local historic district commission. I think this is a good sound solution. My sense is that no, I'll say it differently. I would be hopeful that Angus particularly would be supportive of this, but he's of course not able to be attending, being a new father and so forth. We might consider, this is not a move to do so, but we might consider continuing this so that we could get a unanimous vote of the board on this. I think that would be to the benefit of this project. That's something that we could bear in mind. But maybe I should hear from Jera on that, because you were there, Jera, and you've had thoughts on this as well. But this seems to be one of those times when deliberation, collaboration, referral, and so forth has yielded a better product. That's it
All
for
right,
me,
thanks,
Doug.
Bruce. I did want to say that the plan for this evening was to have this topic in discussion until 7:15, at which point we would, if we needed to, continue the discussion at a later meeting. And particularly with Angus's absence, I think that would probably be a good policy, or a good practice anyway. I guess, Walker, would you be able to say shrink the view a little bit down to maybe 50%?
That
Yeah.
better, we
Okay.
can at least
Okay.
see the
So
whole
it doesn't
thing.
really. Let's see. It doesn't show the proximity to Belchertown Road and College Ave, which are just off the
No,
bottom.
yeah.
Yeah, just off the bottom of this map.
Yeah, I don't think there's really going to be any overlap, though, between this and the East Amherst zoning study.
Uh-huh. Okay. Jared, you've got your hand up.
Great. Thanks, Doug. And I really want to thank the local historic district for coming back with this alternative proposal. It's very clear you listened to our feedback, and I genuinely really appreciate it. So thank you. I think that what I've been doing some reflecting on this in particular, and I've been thinking about why this really piqued my interest. And so I kind of want to just like enlighten everyone who's listening on why this particular issue was a sticking point for me. And it's because it's really, really hard to raise a family right now, financially, particularly in Amherst. And I'm only able to do that because of an extraordinary amount of privilege. And so it is my prerogative as a member of this planning board to make it easier for people who are not as privileged as myself to be able to sink their roots here and grow a family here. These regulations relating to local historic districts invariably add a layer of time and review. I'm not saying that it's a good or a bad thing off the bat right there, but they add those things that make it more challenging to redevelop properties. It makes it more expensive to redevelop them, so they're less likely to be affordable, especially because nonprofits like the ones that I work with are less likely to go after riskier projects like that. And so when I saw this, I became frustrated because I felt like uh, the people that my peers, are not being represented in this particular policy. And I know that that's not the purpose of this policy, but that's why I'm just trying to help illuminate my perspective for you all. And it's just that there's so much evidence of how challenging it is to rent a home, to buy a home, how we need more homes for all incomes everywhere right now, and for us to prioritize adopting a regulation that makes it more challenging for people to access a life here in Amherst feels counterintuitive to what we should be doing right now. That said, I obviously see the merit of a local historic district. Maybe it's not obvious. I want to make that statement very clear and obvious. I do wonder though, and I would love for you to help me understand, like, why this particular policy and why now. Because one of the thoughts that I have is, what if I'm glad that we're already having this conversation about postponing because of Angus. But I'm wondering if we could wait to revisit this until after the East Amherst study, because I think that will help inform the merit and the validity of this proposal as well. And that way we're kind of thinking both about the supply challenges and what opportunities are available for East Amherst in the Village Center area, but we also have this additional policy to protect the East Amherst historic core in our back pocket that we can pass simultaneously. Because really I don't mean this with judgment, but it's a little tone deaf when we prioritize something that makes it harder to build your life here over an abundance of other options for things that we can do to make life easier for people here. So I think I really appreciate the restraint that the committee showed with this renewed proposal. I really appreciate it. I really think it's a great proposal, but I do wonder if the committee would be open to waiting until after the East Amherst study. And I would ask that you help me also understand the urgency of this and why to prioritize this. And I ask that with genuine curiosity, not in any way with judgment. So thank you.
All right, thanks, Tara. Steve.
Yeah, with all due respect, 22 properties is not going to stop anyone from moving here. In fact, preserving the character is going to get people to want to move here because this place has some character. And,
Steve, you're telling me you didn't listen to me at all. You're just like completely negating everything that I just said.
No.
So you're just telling me that you didn't listen to me whatsoever.
No. First of all, you need to raise your hand. You need to raise your hand. I'm sorry, Mr. Smith.
Please let Steve respond.
I waited until you were finished. No, I feel like I listened to you very closely, actually. Your main point was that LHDs prevent, affordable housing. And that we're tone deaf. And I don't think we're tone deaf, and I don't think we're preventing affordable housing. Well, most of these structures are actually not residential, and or a lot of them aren't. And we're not all we're trying to do is we're not trying to prevent infill. ADU is by right. Anything that can't be seen from the public way can be erected, like that big lot, which I didn't realize was such a big one. I wish I could point to it. none of I don't. And in terms of making it more difficult, and I read your memo about how it's a burden on the town, and I just honestly, when I read it, I was rolling my eyes because I didn't understand what you were talking about. We have one staff person. We meet once a month, and the only material that we ever weighed in on was vinyl siding. So all the stuff that you were saying, when I was reading it, I honestly didn't know what I didn't know what you were referring to. And like I said, this is not going to inhibit infill. It's just going to preserve some historic buildings. That's all our concern is. Like I said, this is not I've read things in the Amherst Current that this is like another homeowners association. No, it isn't. None of us live there. This was something that we were asked to do, and we're doing it to the best of our ability. We've listened to you. We've reduced it as much as possible. So when I hear this, that it's like creating impediments for people moving here, I am honestly at a loss. Okay, now you can respond.
Okay, thank you, Steve. The next hand I see is from Bruce.
I think, Jared, there's simply no evidence to suggest to support your argument. So I would say that your case is based on an assertion. I've been on the district commission now for almost 8 years. I mean, almost an obscenely long time, and I'd be happy to get off, but it requires an architectural presence or someone with an architectural background, and those people with that background are thin on the ground, and so that's why I've stayed. But in that 8 year period, I've been a lot of hearings, and Steve's right. There's precious little expensive advocacy that we've perpetrated. The maintenance of existing wood clapboards over vinyl siding is probably the single regulatory act that we've, or the single act within our purview that we've pushed. So, but it's not just on the experience of our own operations over the past years. There are studies and so forth that have been made of these districts by others across the state, don't show that there is a significant concern in terms of their inhibitions to what you're talking about, helping people make their home. There just doesn't seem to be a connection, a serious, solid, consequential connection between those two concerns. So, I mean, I'd be happy to be persuaded on the basis of data otherwise, but at the moment, there's no evidence to support what you're saying.
Bruce, I guess I have a question for you. I have a vague memory that there was a project maybe off of Fearing Street that was proposed, and the local historic district commission rejected it. I've heard that it may have been architecturally too big for the neighborhood and had some undesirable characteristics anyway. But is it true that project was essentially denied by the commission?
No, it's not true that it was denied, Doug, but it is true that the commission expressed a strong concerns about it, and I believe it was withdrawn. The concerns were that this site was being developed with multiple housing, and what was consequent was that we had a parking area that I think held about 20 vehicles, and that caused us to be concerned about parking structures, and that in turn caused us to be concerned about whether the commission had the power to consider parking areas or structures, not structures, because that would be a thing. It expanded our analysis of what we were empowered to used as a basis for denial of a certificate of appropriateness. So that certainly came up in discussion. But this project was, I believe, withdrawn, and I think it might have had trouble with other regulatory bodies, but of course it never came to that.
Okay, all right.
Steve may have, I'm not
Yeah.
sure whether Steve was there when that was on, but if he may have something to say on that too.
Right.
But that's my recollection of the situation. It was somewhat complicated, and it's the only project in the 8 years of my experience that went that way. We had a similar strong negative reaction to the original proposal for the Amherst Media, and that resulted in them coming back with a far more appropriate structure. So I think we had a net benefit there. And we've certainly had a strenuous engagement with the housing on Sunset and Fearing, but that always was headed in a good direction, and we engaged, and I think um, made it a little better. And also, the other thing that the District Commission does is, in some respects, is give people a first opportunity to voice opinions that are typically well beyond our purview and so forth, but we don't discourage or we don't stop folks from saying and expressing concerns about all sorts of other issues that are well outside our domain. It's an opening of the sequence of conversations around land use.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, I brought that Fearing Street project up just because I hadn't realized it was withdrawn before the commission actually issued or denied a certificate of
I
appropriateness.
think it was. I'm working on my memory. Be clear about that.
That's fine. It doesn't really matter, but it was an instance where sort of the absolute power, let's say, of the district commission has in areas that are designated as such was evident. And so, I think that's the thing that gives me pause is that, we never hear about the projects that don't actually get proposed because the people that might propose them don't want to have to run the gauntlet with an entity that's got absolute power over whether it goes forward or not. So I've always just found it, I think I said back in April when we had the first conversation that I'd like to have a sense of where in Amherst should we have historic districts, because the next one I would probably do is the one on the common for all those brick buildings that everyone loves and you see in the real estate listings for downtown Amherst. Those buildings, what if somebody proposed replacing one of those buildings? So I just feel like we need to kind of be cautious about adding property to historic districts in town. And so I was at best sort of lukewarm about this, and maybe not as vocal as Jara and Angus were. And then Johanna, I think she was kind of skeptical too, but she's no longer on the board. So anyway, it's that absolute power that is of concern to me, and without a whole lot of kind of bylaw, design guideline, guidance for somebody to know whether they have a good shot at getting through it or not. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start. In fact, I'm sort of in terms of that project on Fearing, all we did was we did our job, just like you're doing your job. Everything that comes to you right away, you don't approve. The people that submitted that plan, we gave them our comments, and they had every opportunity to come back with another plan. That's what we're here for. That's what we do. Your comments seem to question, once again, like Mr. Smith's memo, the very, validity of a local historic district. And my experience with you, you seem like a very decent person. But your philosophy, personally, to me, seems to be if you've seen one old building, you've seen them all, and there's absolutely no utility. So it really bothers me. I've tried to get a local historic district downtown. Okay, I worked with the town. There's no way that would ever happen. So your comments I find to be very disingenuous. And this is the oldest part of town. So I don't understand what is more worthy of preservation than this. These buildings are from the 1700s. To me, this whole thing is just so distressing. I grew up in the suburbs and we had no history there. Okay, so that's why when I moved here, this really means a lot to me because it's so unique. And I think we all take it for granted. But don't criticize us for doing our job. Those people on Fearing could have come back. There was another project on Fearing, which was before my time, that is like, I don't know, like 20 or 30 structures now that, the LHD worked in good conscience with Mr. Roberts, the developer, and they came up with something that everyone likes. There's no complaints. No complaints by the residents, no complaints by the developer. Joel Greenbaum came in with a property on McClellan. The property was 200 years old. We judged that it was not historically significant or historically significant. It was in bad shape, and we gave him right away a certificate to demolish it. Okay, so we do use it's not blanket. And then he put up a house that everyone likes. No one complains about it. And now he's putting up an ADU. We're not inhibiting development, which is what you guys seem to think. We're trying to preserve the character of this town. And they're two very different things.
All right. Thank you, Steve. All right. I see 3 hands in the public. I'd like to let them speak with apologies to the members of CRC that are waiting in the room outside. So we'll get the public comment on this topic now, and then we will end this conversation and go on to our clean energy bylaw. We will continue discussing this at a future meeting. All right. We'll start with Ken Rosenthal, and we'll give him 3 minutes. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall.
Hello, Ken.
I'm Ken Rosenthal. I live on Sunset Avenue. I live in a local historic district, and years ago, I lived on Northeast Street, close to the wonderful old houses that are part of the proposed district, which I fully support. I've submitted my statement in writing, and I trust you've all read it, so I just want to add a little bit to it here. Too few people realize that East Amherst is really early Amherst, where the Amherst community flourished, lived, and worked and prayed before it was severed from Hadley in 1759. It must be identified as such, recognized, not frozen and preserved in ice, because an LHD does not freeze change, as my Sunset Avenue neighbors and I can testify, but recognized and well managed as Amherst LHDs are. So I hope if you haven't read my statement, you will read it, and I hope you will vote to approve this recommendation. Thank you again, Mr. Marshall, for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Ken. All right, Pam, can we bring over Samuel Bedry? And you'll need to restart the timer.
Hi.
Hello, Samuel. Please give us your street address, and you have 3 minutes.
I'm from Hampshire College. I'm here to do the finish the teach out, but I was here 12 years ago. I did my Div 2, but I wasn't at a stage in my life where I could finish my Div 3, and here I am to come here. So I just had to jump in. I'm really talking about the other item that you're going to get to, but I just feel like I had to try to diffuse the tension in the room, because I feel like I sort of understand both sides, but I very much am in Steve's camp. In Cincinnati, we have not a French Quarter, but we have a German Quarter. and from all the German immigrants that left before when Germany was unifying. And it's all we have. And when I graduated high school, we knocked down most of them in saving them. And I guess what I would just say is, if you're going to build new housing, I just don't understand for the life of me why the housing that exists isn't the deferred maintenance isn't done. I mean, if all the deferred maintenance is done on the existing housing, then it makes sense to build new. But furthermore, just not to make Mr. Smith feel like I understand why he's making the point. But down on Southeast Street, which the way you guys feel about buildings, sorry about the noise, I feel about land. And that where the school is, I mean, that's so interesting that's where Shays Rebellion was. But if you go a little bit down further on Southeast Street, that's truly where most of the housing is. And if you're going to put a new thing, put it down there or fix those first so that, and put a sidewalk or an extra bus stop, that I know there'll be another study, but I just wanted to say there's no reason why everyone can't win here. I mean, the town definitely has to be given the historic district. I mean, it would be foolish to do anything else. But fix the buildings. And then when you do need to build the new buildings, well, I don't want to talk about the elephant in the room with Hampshire, but I mean, that's the real opportunity. And if you go with the town's design team, they're going to, I've seen how it goes in Cincinnati. They're going to leave you an asset that they're going to make off with the money. They're going to leave you an asset within, 15 years will be a burden to maintain. I've heard just anecdotally, seniors want not tiny homes, but they want smaller homes to move into that are, climate controlled, warm in the winter, cool in the summer. And then people want triple deckers, like the old school triple deckers where, you can have, siblings all living together. Anyway, so I'm gonna relinquish the rest of my time, but I don't think everyone has to be, we don't have to be in conflict. I think there's a way to work this out for everyone. Sorry, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Samuel. All right, Pam, can you move Ken and Samuel back to the attendees? And then the next person would be Petty Startup.
Hello, Doug. Can you hear me?
Hello. Hello, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I'm Hetty
And your street
Startup.
address is?
My street address is North Pleasant Street in North Amherst. I just stepped down from a second term on the Amherst Historical Commission. I am an architectural historian by training. And I'm very much in favor of Amherst being a place where families can live. God, I hear you. It really concerns me. And it's not just Amherst that's having this problem, it's all over the valley. But I also, like Samuel, who just spoke, think that we can have both. We can be a both and community in Amherst. We can have affordable housing. I know the town has been working to develop some with the East Street School, and we can have our history preserved. It's not everybody's history. Now that some of the buildings have been removed from the initial proposal, but it's a really important part of our history, especially this year, in the year of the 250th anniversary of the country. Betty mentioned Shays Rebellion, and that's Western Mass. That's the little guys, stepping up and saying, we want our rights. We want representation. We're struggling to pay for things with no paper money, and no one's listening to us. So there are lots of voices in this town that need representing. And Steve Bloom is right. All the committees and commissions are doing their job to take care of Amherst and make it as inclusive and representative for as many of us as it possibly can. It was very interesting to me with the demo delay process on the Amherst Historical Commission that we were often being asked to let small single-family homes get demolished. So the fact that there are still a few of them that came before us that wanted to be demolished that have survived is testament to us doing our work and for people maybe reconsidering and realizing that they can work with a historic structure and go forward from there. So I'll finish there, Doug. I know this is going to be continued, so I'll just finish right now and let other people have the floor. Thanks.
Thank you, Hetty. All right, Pam, our last hand is for Andrew Churchill. And if we could bring Andy in, and Andy, you'll have 3 minutes, and let us know if you're speaking as a counselor or as a private citizen.
Can you hear me? Oh,
Yes.
okay. I guess I'm speaking as a counselor, but it's hard to separate the two. But I guess I appreciate the focusing of the historic district, and I did go and actually drive around and look at the properties, and you know, a lot of them make sense to me. There are some beautiful places in that area. That the old whatever that building is on the corner that looks very old and looks worthy of preservation. And I understand, I appreciate that we're not just sticking with the old outline, and we've actually looked at specific houses. I have questions about two of the included properties, and I watched the previous local historic commission meeting, or one of them, and I saw that the common was added sort of at the end of the deliberations. And so I have a question about that and about the East Street School. The East Street School is, as I think you know, is planned to be redeveloped for affordable housing. And so I guess I would have questions about whether this designation of that property would have any negative impact on the ability of the nonprofit that's trying to redevelop the property to have more housing, if that would negatively affect that, the ability of that to happen. And then the common, you know, the common downtown is very clearly a gathering place and a important center of town. The older common, that's the strip of land between the Fort River School and the rental houses and the East Street School behind it, it may have been an important, or a starting point for Amherst, but some of that land, we're going to have to figure out traffic for the elementary school, and that might require, one of the better solutions might require taking some of that land so that we could have a traffic flow that doesn't, tie the town up in knots with all the folks coming into the school and commuters going to UMass. So I guess those are my two concerns. Otherwise, I'm fairly supportive. So I'm curious whether those are really important to the proposal, or whether they could be removed, and whether I'm worrying too much about this East Street School, and whether that would be preventative of affordable housing. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Andy.
Can I just address that
Yeah,
real
Walker.
fast? We've actually already discussed the East Street School project, and it's clear in the state law that projects that are already permitted would not undergo additional review if the district is formed after the permits are approved. So that project will not be impacted either way by the district. And as far as the common, as the rules and regs are currently written, the commission doesn't actually have purview over ground level, like parking or roadways or landscaping, anything like that. They only have purview over structures. So unless there was a plan to put a structure on the common, it wouldn't come before the commission in any case if there were changes to be made.
All right, thank you, Walker. All right, there's one more hand from Jennifer Taub. Can we bring over Jennifer? Jennifer, you'll have 3 minutes. If you can distinguish between your remarks as a counselor and as a private citizen, that would be helpful.
Yes, my name is Jennifer Taub. Like Andy, I am speaking as a resident, and I guess I'm in part responding. I was just speaking about the East Street School. I was the counsel, so I guess I am in part speaking as a counselor. I was the liaison to the Affordable Housing Trust when Wayfarers was spending a lot of time developing or doing the architectural renderings for the East Street School. And again, as Walker just said, that wouldn't be included, but at that time, this was maybe 3 years ago, the renderings that Wayfarer did, and the East Streets, there's no local historic district there now, but they had actually kept the current brick structure intact and added on to it. There was, in a way, that was really very architecturally interesting, blending the old and the new. So again, on their own, the developer that, at least at the time, was working on the East Street School had decided to leave the building intact and add considerable square footage onto that. And then, as long as I'm speaking, I guess I would just add that I'm also a resident of a local historic district and probably a neighborhood that has had more new development, more ADUs, and a lot of houses purchased by the Amherst, or several houses purchased by the Amherst Community Land Trust. So we are having a lot of new development in this local historic district. And I would say we're one of the more, maybe the most active residential neighborhood, because we are an RG neighborhood. So we are zoned for all kind, single family houses, duplexes, triplexes, apartments, and we have had a lot of development of new buildings, new housing, and ADUs being built in the local historic district. So it by no means impedes development, because again, it just so happens that one of the two local historic districts in town has probably had more development than almost any other residential neighborhood in town. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so I think with that, we will end this discussion for tonight. Walker and Pam, can we put this on either the next meeting or the meeting after that to try to make sure that Angus can join us, and we'll resume the discussion then.
Do you need
All
a
right.
motion for that, Doug?
What's that?
Do you need a motion for
This
that?
is not a hearing, Bruce.
Oh, thank you.
So we don't need to vote. Steve and Elizabeth, thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate you taking the time to do this, and I also appreciate your coming back with this revised proposal.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so it's time is 7:32. We'll now turn to the Clean Energy Bylaw hearing that's next on the agenda. So I'll do the open the hearing. All right. All right, this is a continuation of a public hearing for zoning bylaw, Article 18, Clean Energy Bylaw, or Clean Energy Infrastructure. Continued from May 20th, June 3rd, June 17th, July 1st, and July 15th, all of this year, to consider amending the zoning bylaw by adopting Article 18, Clean Energy Infrastructure, and associated amendments to Zoning Table 3, Dimensional Regulations, 5.11, Renewable Energy, Accessory Solar Photovoltaic Installations / Battery Energy Storage Systems Uses, 6.2, Fences, and Article 12, Definitions. All right, so this hearing is now open. Let's bring it. Yeah, we've got Andrew and Pam. Is there anyone else from CRC that's joining us? Is Jennifer on CRC or? Oh, here's Mandy Jo. Good.
Jennifer
Hello,
is
Mandy
on
Jo, and here,
CRC.
and hello, Andrew.
Jennifer is on CRC. And this
Ew.
was noticed as a CRC meeting, so all CRC members should be in.
Okay. So why don't we bring Jennifer over? Is Pam Rooney joining tonight?
She was unsure, but as it was noticed as a CRC meeting, once Jennifer joins, our vice chair, Andy Churchill, should call the meeting to order.
Okay. Pamfield Sadler, can you remove Steve from the panel? Thank you.
Yes, I thought I had.
Okay, he's now gone.
Okay.
All right, Mandy Jo, do you want to open your meeting?
We still need Jennifer Taub in, and it's Andy Churchill, who's our vice chair, that should be chairing the CRC meeting.
Yeah, I can open it once
Okay.
we have a quorum.
All right.
You will, I think. She's been invited.
You want me to try to do it, Pam?
You can. Mm-hmm.
I don't, doesn't look like, oh, promote to panelist.
Yeah. Could she have stepped away?
Maybe she wasn't planning on being here. I don't know.
Well, she's still an attendee.
She declined.
So if it's just the two of us, then we don't have a quorum. So we would just be participating as contributing, what we've talked about in our meetings, but we would not be part of the hearing.
All right.
Okay.
So should we proceed, Andy?
I would say let's go forward.
Okay. All right. Well,
I think Mandy and I were here mostly to be able to answer questions about how the bylaws been reorganized, and Mandy did most of that work, and we had a meeting to discuss it. So it's considerably, I think, more user friendly than it was.
good. So yeah, Mandy Jo, then I mean, certainly I'd like to have somebody kind of go through how it was reorganized. The copy that we received has a few yellow highlights and has a few comments, mostly starting on section 1805, but kind of the overall strategy is not really clear.
So if I may,
Yes.
I will share my screen and share an earlier version and go through the big changes, and then we will go back to the cleaner version, which is the version, I believe, 15 that you received. Although you should have received the marked up copy, but it's easier to show the changes and the reorganization in the marked up copy. So if that's okay with you, Doug, I will do that.
That would be great. That would be great.
Let me find that. So everyone should be able to see this. And now that I'm sharing, I'm not sure I can lower my hand. So just ignore the hand.
Oh, I can lower your hand.
Since I don't get a hand thing when I share.
There you go.
Thanks. So this is the marked up copy that then became essentially version 15. And then, well, version, I don't know what I called it at some point, 14A or something. And then CRC took that and went over the marked up copy and made some changes beyond that. But I'll go through this one fairly quickly to just talk about all the reorganization and what went, where things went and all of that. It's really hard to read though, which is why I'm going to go through it quickly and why you might not have gotten this one because it's really hard to read. So, we changed the title of the bylaw at the recommendation of the attorney to positively say it also deals with consolidated permitting for small clean energy infrastructure facilities. In this version, let me just say red is everything I did, blue is what the attorney wrote. So if you see blue, that was suggested by the attorney.
Okay.
The next thing I did is deal with the applicability section. This is one that we have all talked about for a while that said, oh, we don't have this written well. It was very hard to understand. And so now there is a new way of dealing with, taken at the suggestion of the attorney in terms of language on what parts apply to what. The highlights are simply for me tracking references to sections. This becomes very helpful. For example, when I reorganize everything, to know what I also have to change section-wise with a quick, easy scroll through to fix the sections. So these are the new sections that do not apply. I moved a couple of things into this section, so it's actually a new section. And all beyond that, there's not a lot of substantive changes to this. I created the section, I moved things into that section, but basically everything that was already included in the section is there. Administrative approval was fixed as the technical term. And then
Andy, could I just interrupt?
Sure.
If you want to just go back to that red section with, yeah. The point of this section is that it basically says for different uses which parts of the whether the article applies at all. For example, with building integrated BESS or consumer grade plug-in modular SPIs, or for agrivoltaic or non-agrivoltaic canopy or ground mount. It just basically, we had talked about how do people know, is there a way that people can home in on what parts they have to focus on? And this basically says, you know, if you're agrivoltaic, you don't need to look at sections 18.07 through 17 and vice, you know, and similarly with the other ones. So that was a major cleanup, I think.
Yeah. It used to be this crossed out stuff that everyone agreed was not working. So that's what it did. In definitions, you'll see resolved comments mean I dealt with the attorney's comment within something, so it's been addressed. The attorney recommended not referencing the specific definitions in here and saying all capitalized terms used in are defined in 12 except those noted below. So I took her language, I got rid of that. It shortens this bylaw a little bit because it gets rid of a couple of lines, which is always good. All of this changes to her blue are just referencing the shortened reference to the Climate Act. It's not changing anything. It's simply keeping things consistent. So the only thing I added to the definitions in this section were the definition of a local government representative. The attorney recommended we define that term here and then designate who it is later on, but define it here. So that is a new definition within this. And nothing else substantively changed in that. Compliance didn't change really at all substantively. You'll see some minor changes, but we didn't change it substantively. Then I added a new section. It doesn't look new because it stayed 05. I split the it's not really a new section, I guess. It's a group section. This is the consolidated local permitting section that the attorney at the last hearing talked about. In terms of clearing up what complies, so this is if someone's doing a consolidated local permit, here are things they need to know. So separate from all of the sort of land use for SPI and BESS. And so you'll see a lot of this is new or modified. Local government representative, and then I defined who the local government representative is. So this part here is added to this section, but it's basically moved from other parts of the bylaw. And I couldn't tell you right now exactly where, but some of them are moved from the submittal requirements into this because they would only apply to people using consolidated permitting. So I added that there. It was recommended by the attorney to do that. And this one is sort of that explanation saying if you're going to choose the process, consolidated permitting process, you got to comply with 229 CMR. So that's what this is. It's not, that's what it did. That was what recommended. Per the attorney's recommendation, I deleted the site suitability assessment one. She had recommended we just make them submit the score report. So that's where that went from. So the rest of it got deleted. And then this part is also part of it here, the fee section. It was a separate section, but it really only applied to consolidated permit fees. And so I put it into this consolidated permitting 18.05 section. It's a new section that includes all of the stuff that was only consolidated permit applicable, which is what the fee rewrite was. So then I created two submittal sections in order for our goal to make the exclusions to the small SPIs and BESS and canopies and agrivoltaics, to make that easier to read of what sections don't apply. Certain submittal requirements did apply to those items up there in the first one we talked about, but the big section didn't. The problem was some of these were at the beginning before the big list of submittal requirements, and others were at the end of the big list. So instead, I just created a new section that applies to everyone, and then a section of just the big list that applies to the big stuff. So in some sense, it's not a substantive change, it's an organizational change. And so then I had to come up with a title and all. And then substantively, the submittal requirements didn't change. Dimensional standards didn't change. We accepted a lot of that. You'll see this one was left here. CRC dealt with that one. So when we get to the next one, you'll see changes related to that. Basically, if the attorney didn't talk about it, I didn't address it and change anything here. We took the language for hazardous. The next big change is within herbicides and pesticides and emergency response. For herbicides and pesticides, you'll see this is deleted. It was essentially a intro statement that did nothing, that described 333 CMR 11. So in the goal of making this a little more direct and short, I deleted the intro section. The substance of it is they still have to comply with 333 CMR 11. We just don't have the intro section anymore. You'll see this deleted here. I created a new agrivoltaic section. So herbicides and pesticides now appears twice in order to, again, make that upper very first section of what applies to agrivoltaics really easy without citing subparts of sections. I ended up splitting this into two sections, this herbicide and pesticide section and another one. I'll point it out when we get down there. The attorney recommended for emergency response that it just be referenced down below an emergency response plan. So that's why it's deleted here. And that's why that is added below. So it didn't get deleted, it just got moved. Building permit and building inspection. Walker asked if it was necessary. It seemed duplicative, so I deleted it. And then moving on to through all of this, this is where we'll start seeing 18 was 11, had two sort of sections. It had a BESS section and an agrivoltaic section. I split them into a BESS section for big BESS. And down here, I added a section for agrivoltaic and anything on prime farmland and soils. Again, the goal was to make that top part very streamlined in what applies and what doesn't without having to reference subsections of things. But substantively, neither of those sections changed. And then I added an agrivoltaic section because that was up here. The prime farmland and soils applied not just to agrivoltaic, but anything put on prime farmland, whereas we had some things throughout the bylaw that applied only to agrivoltaic canopies. So I added a new section for agrivoltaics and put all the stuff there. You'll see the herbicide and pesticide section here. The MDAR moved up to the very first thing said. So it's up there. But it didn't, substantively nothing changed. It just looks different. And then that finishes it. Other things that changed, we made sure there was I think it's down here, less than or equal to, because there was nothing that equaled 25 kilowatts in any of this. So we corrected just a reference there. We added the introduction here. I think that CRC, I think, added that at some point, or gave me the language. I think Pam gave me the language. And then down here, I added a definition for small clean energy infrastructure facility. Basically, all I said was that's defined as it's defined in the regulations. It's a long definition. I didn't want to repeat it. If they change the definition, we don't have to change the bylaw this way. But the attorney had recommended that. So that is the brief overview of the reorganization.
Good, good.
I can
And
answer
so-
questions on that here, or I can move to the clean one if people would like to see the clean one and the further things CRC talked about to resolve comments.
Board members, do you want to keep looking at this, or shall we just go on to 15? Anybody object to going on to version 15?
I vote for the clean one.
And Walker, can I ask you before we get too much farther, with Roy as a new member, is he eligible to vote on our recommending this or not?
I think so. That's a good question. It's not a regulatory permit, like a site plan review, so
Okay,
I believe it's fine.
okay, great. All right, Mandy?
Okay, so this is the one that everything you just saw was accepted and produced a 14A. It's now called 15. Because then CRC looked at that and resolved some of the comments that were left and had some other questions and did some stuff. So there's some tracking in here to show those changes. I think it's some tracked. And you'll see that I constantly see some stuff that isn't fixed. So I will fix them as I go through. So this is the clean version. It basically looks the same. We had some questions. When we had moved into consolidated local permitting for site suitability, the attorney had recommended we just, if they're doing consolidated permitting, put the site suitability requirement to put that report and scores into the application. CRC asked, well, if they're required to submit that anyway, we don't have to report it here. So I did look up the final regulations. I did that while I was waiting here during your last discussion earlier tonight. And this section of the CMR does require that an entity applicant submitting a consolidated permit submit their site suitability report scores with their consolidated permit application. So while we haven't changed it because we haven't had a meeting yet, I am happy if everyone is agreeable with that to delete that part of this.
Yeah, it looks like it could go away.
Because it's duplicative of applicable, comply with all of it, and submit everything, because they have to submit everything anyway. So if everyone's okay, I will do that and simplify it a little farther. So that was one of these questions. And then we had a question for the planning board, who's more expert at this than we are, and the planning staff. When we were looking at waivers and modifications of the submittal requirements, we also reworded the language. This was one where I had left a question from the attorney. The attorney had asked what compelling is, and potential rewording. So CRC worked out a new wording of it. But then the question was, given the fact that 1822, which I'll page down to here, allows waivers, and we added the language and submittal requirements to it to be sure, but with these requirements, do we need the waiver section up above of submittal requirements or not? It was a question we thought was better answered by the planning board and the planning staff than CRC, so it is one that I'm hoping you guys can determine on whether this whole section is needed or not.
Well, am I right? I may not have fully digested this, but section 22 had sort of specific reasons we would be allowed to grant a waiver, right?
Yes.
And it did the earlier reference that you had the question about, is that broader or not?
Let me find it. Has provided a compelling reason for a waiver from submittal requirements, and the PGA agrees.
So it's probably, it's a little bit broader.
It's a little bit broader, probably.
Well, as the authors of this, how much latitude does CRC want to give the planning board?
So, I mean, Andy I'll try and summarize my thought. Our thought was, if we're trying to reduce this, if section 1822 sufficiently covers 1806, we don't need 1806. CRC was happy to leave 1806 in with the modified language. If the planning board thought it was helpful to have it in both places, which is why we left it up for sort of your discussion instead of ours. Andy, did I summarize that correctly?
Yeah, I think so. What Doug said is, I think, true. I mean, the language down below is a little bit more specific, but this is waivers and modifications of submittal requirements. I guess it's for any reason, right? And the one at the end is, I don't know why the waivers section, couldn't we just have this be the waivers section? Or I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem a little bit weird to have it show up in two places so far apart from each other. I mean, my self-interest as a planning board member is that it's useful to have a little more leeway to allow a waiver from the submittal requirements. And so I like this language. But whether this could just be the first of three bullets with the second and third one being, because the one down below on 22, that is more than submittal requirements, right?
Right.
Yes, it is to everything.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the reason why they're separate. I mean, I guess at the moment I would vote to keep it, but I'm just one perspective. Anybody else, board member?
I'm looking for oh, here it is.
Go ahead, Bruce.
What was I going to say? I spent so much time trying to find I've forgotten what I was going to say, Doug. It can't have been very important.
Okay. I will just mention there's one member of the public that has his hand raised, and when we get to the right moment, I will call on him. All right, Mandy, did you have other questions? Oh, Bruce, did you think of it?
Yes, it had to do with compelling. I suppose ultimately the whether it's compelling or not is resolved by us thinking it's compelling and the applicant either agreeing or challenging it. And if there's a successful challenge, the understanding of compelling is gradually established. But is that too cumbersome a way, or I mean, I don't see any other way of really establishing it. I mean,
Yeah, we didn't know what to do with it as CRC, so we came up with this language that sort of is essentially an establishment by how the PGAs, whether they agree or not, and then historically you'll get a couple of parameters around that in a sense. You know,
I mean,
we
I
did
feel
use
like
the language that the attorney sort of recommended, and the local government representative agrees. Someone may grant it. We changed it to, and the PGA agrees. So we did go with for the compelling the language the attorney provided.
Yeah, I feel like it just puts us and it puts everybody on notice that this is not an easy request. We need to have a substantive reason for it to happen. And I assume it applies not only to us, it applies to Concom and anybody else that's part of a consolidated permit. Because we're not the PGA for all of the consolidated permit.
For the permits, sometimes the PGA is the ZBA, sometimes it's you. This would, I think sometimes there's some yeses where it might apply to the building commissioner too. So yeah,
Right.
Each board will come up with its own sort of parameters of compelling.
Right. Bruce?
So I agree, and just put my hand up to register support for retaining it, because I think it gives, there is some logic to having it in there, and so for the moment I'd say keep it.
The next big change, we had some questions which are farther down on this list. They were under hazardous materials, I think, regarding PFAS, where at one point we had said no PFAS and all, and the attorney had some questions as to how that would be determined. So we added it into the submittal requirements of in the technical specification section. If that part of it, to try and address the attorney's question. The question's down farther, so I can't pop the question out for you. The attorney asked on this one, why do we know who's paying for the improvements? So CRC believed deleting that question, that statement was the best route, that you didn't need to know who was paying for it.
Mhm.
So that is one of the things that was changed. And then let's see. We referenced Table 3 dimensional regulations. I think we'd made that change to sort of there was a question about fence line, and we got rid of the word compelling here, and we cleared up fence line question from the attorney, and Table 3 dimensional regulations. That's just a consistency change there that we had noticed when we were going through it. I'll keep going unless there's questions. We resolved the comments here from the attorney without making any changes. So this is the comment where she talked about PFAS. She asked, how would we require documentation to demonstrate compliance to PFAS? And that's why we added up above in the submittal requirements the PFAS containing materials or releasing materials within this technical specifications to address this comment down here. And then I think, we had a smoke detection, fire control, suppression, and explosion control in the emergency response plan. I think that might have been for something earlier on, but we added that into that, and then a compliance section there. Fixed owner operator to applicant for consistency there. And this is where we got smoke detection, fire control, suppression. She asked, should the emergency plan be modified? So that's why we added that language up above in the emergency plan. Again, just sort of consolidating duplicative sections into the same section instead of having things in separate sections.
Also, she noted, or I think we all noted, that there may not be a lot of staff on site. So the notion of having training for facility staff was not really relevant. It was more that we want to have an emergency plan for the types of outcomes that were listed there.
Yeah. So that's why we moved it up there. Thank you, Andy. And then we changed the word material to significant. And then we did a include but not limited to, so it is not the comment here was material might be open to interpretation. We didn't necessarily want it all modifications, but we were trying to describe what the big modifications are. So we changed material to significant, thinking that might be a little bit better of a descriptor of big. And then we included a list, but said this is not a complete list, but here's a description of what we believe significant are. There could be others that we didn't think of because complete lists are hard to make. So that was the change there to address that. We talked about the submittal requirement change there, I think.
Mandy?
Oh, yep.
Just a question on that last one. It says significant modifications include, and then we say significant alterations. I don't know if we want to say substantial alterations or something. It seems kind of redundant or circular.
Planning board?
The editor in me would agree with Andrew.
Done. Down here, Walker had questions about why the smaller unit is a no. Was something about the smaller is a no, but the bigger is a special permit. So we made the smaller site plan reviews. So that was a change there to sort of equalize. It didn't make sense to say in an office park or an RVC that you can have a tier 2 massive standalone BESS, but not a tiny standalone BESS. So as a no.
Okay.
And this was just fixing, and that was it from what CRC did from the big reorg version.
Okay. All right, so I think I'll call on our public commenter, and then we can talk in terms of what you need from us tonight to maintain your schedule to get this enacted by October. So Pam, I think Mandy, you can stop the share. Pam, can you bring over Samuel Bedry so he can make his comment? Hello, Samuel. If you could give us your name, your street address, and you have 3 minutes.
Sam Bedry again, Hampshire College. Yeah, no, I have a whole thing prepared, but I really do not feel comfortable with these changes. I'm trying really hard to imagine this is not at the request of the people trying to do this very thing at Hampshire right now. And for the matter of editing, is this legalese or is this not? Because redundancy doesn't matter in legalese. These are their terms of art or they're not. Changing the word from substantial to whatever you said, that doesn't, if substantial means something, then repeat substantial. And same thing with the material. You define what material meant. And I don't also, there's some line very quickly about the manager can appoint a designee in place of them. I don't like that. But anyways, that's just me. So good evening. I'm here representing a growing coalition of registered Amherst voters, local residents, community stakeholders. Our grassroots group has officially initiated the petition framework under the Amherst Homeroom Charter to establish an emergency 24-month zoning moratorium on all educated designated parcels belonging to Hampshire. We're putting this joint committee together. And while you consider amending dimensional regulations for utility scale solar voltaic installations and battery energy storage systems, you must recognize that Hampshire's private trustees are actively attempting to manipulate these specific clean energy zoning expansions to execute unvetted commercial land lease and liquidate local agricultural parcels to satisfy external wind down creditors. Instead of allowing industrial solar monetization to permanently mar our community's open landscape. We propose a direct agricultural remediation plan. Any solar array footprint on these properties must ultimately revert to active pasture and agricultural use to support our local dairy and food ecosystems, preserving the open fields for operations like Cook Farm. We all like flavors and we all value that. The town must implement a unified municipal consolidation plan using existing campus infrastructure. The town should immediately pivot from the costly Jones Library expansion project, relocating all those capital funds directly to the Department of Public Works to address their urgent $50 million deficit. The existing underutilized Hampshire College library space can be seamlessly repurposed to house Amherst Media and the public archives. Furthermore, the town's heavy vehicular fleet can be efficiently housed by constructing temporary low-cost Quonset huts on the campus spaces bordering Bay Road and West Street. This layout preserves capital, eliminates sunken costs, and allows structural shells to be easily rotated or repurposed once permanent operations stabilize. Our coalition has also stepped forward to handle immediate social and infrastructural needs in town. We are volunteering our collective labor to clean Crocker Elementary School. I know you didn't have money for that study.
Sam, you're under 30 seconds.
Okay, and to coordinate traffic guard flows at the intersection for the new school opening. Currently, we're willing to do that. Currently, because we can't help Hampshire because it's all lawyered up. Currently, our group is organizing an active grassroots volition initiative directly to help the Bangs Community Center, which is where I was for the health board meeting. They need rides, and we can do that. And we're also trying to do that with the homeless people to help them get their identification, birth certificates, and get them on SSI, education, temporary employment. Anyways, this must be governed by a public democratic community review, not by back channel shadow quorums with private corporate trustees. We are moving these proceedings under the Massachusetts Open Meeting Law to ensure absolute transparency, and we invite all local families to join our upcoming Hampstock Coalition on the South Amherst lawn to protect these spaces. Sorry that was so terrible. But I'm done. I'm sorry.
Okay, are you all set?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'll come back.
And am I correct to understand that the main thrust of your comment had to do with Hampshire College as opposed to solar bylaw?
No, this consolidation permitting, I mean, that's what they're doing. This is they must have read this and said, oh, this is too hard to read. We can't do our thing. Please I don't know who this attorney is, but if you guys don't have an attorney to review this, I would highly recommend reaching out to someone who's an attorney and assessing I just don't feel comfortable about it, but that's just me,
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. It sounds like we'll be hearing from your grassroots coalition soon. Okay, I guess Pam, I guess you moved him back out of the panel. All right. I guess I'm a little bit unsure what to do with that comment. It went kind of all over the place for me. Thank you, Mandy Jo and Andy for coming. Mandy Jo, or I guess Andy, do you need us to do a recommendation tonight?
I think Mandy is the keeper of the time frame, so
okay.
I'll defer to her.
I'm not sure which of you I should be addressing these questions to.
So I can speak as president of the council, but also as a CRC member, and I think CRC as a whole is hopeful that the planning board will close their hearing tonight and vote a recommendation tonight. CRC has moved its meeting that would normally be the 13th to tomorrow in hopes of that, such that we hope to be able to put this on the August 17th council agenda for our first read that would then get a second read on September 14th for a second read and a vote, which would put it effective as of September 28th, when consolidated permitting goes into mandatory effect on October 1. So that is the hope that you guys will feel ready with this redo and the reorg and all of the questions resolved to be able to close the hearing and vote a recommendation tonight. The CRC, it's my understanding, CRC is ready to, if planning board closes and votes tonight, to close their hearing and vote tomorrow.
All right, so Bruce, hold on a second. Let's talk about the motion. So you would be looking for a motion from the planning board to recommend this draft bylaw to council. This draft bylaw being version 15 with the edits that we made this evening. And that's how we should characterize it, not as version 16, I assume. And then we would close the hearing. Did I miss anything? That would be the whole motion, right? Anybody think I missed anything? I'm kind of looking at Pam and Walker to make sure I didn't. That seems complete enough to me.
My only question is so you're saying to recommend the draft bylaw to town council version 15 with amendments made tonight for approval, for review? What are you recommending they do with it?
For adoption, I believe is the word that I would use.
Okay.
To incorporate it into our bylaw.
Got it.
Okay, so I'm going to ask now, and then I'll ask after Bruce says his piece. Does anybody have a comment about what we've heard from Mandy Jo this evening that you need to know more before we would ask you to vote up or down on this? We've certainly been talking about it for a while this year. And some of us have been dealing with it earlier too. So I'm not seeing any hands from board members. Bruce, you dropped your hand. You want to bring it back and say your piece?
Yes, I'd basically move the motion as stated, but I wanted to just preface that, particularly in the light of the previous public comment, that this process has been going on since before I joined the planning board, which was 4 years ago or more. So this is a culmination of 4 years of on and off deliberations by this board. So hardly something that's being pushed through by God knows who at a short notice. No, this has been thorough deliberation. So understanding that, I'd move that the board adopts, the board recommends to the council for adoption version 15 with the agreed amendments discussed this evening, and that we close the public hearing.
All right. Thank you, Bruce. Jara.
I second the motion.
All right. Thank you, Jara. Any further discussion? All right, hold on. I see Samuel. Let's bring Samuel back. Samuel, I'd like to give you 1 minute, okay? And I'd like to preface any remarks you want to make by saying, in addition to the long history of this discussion, we are responding to state legislation that is essentially forcing us to adopt a local bylaw in advance of this October deadline, at which point, if we don't, the state will just take over approval, I believe, of all the clean energy infrastructure projects that are proposed in town. Okay, Samuel, you've got 1 minute.
No, I mean, I'm not going to, I understand you have that problem with this. I'm just worried that arbitrary deadline is being gamed in some ways. And I appreciate 4 years is a long time, but I mean, I was there 12 years ago when they made these decisions, and we were all very clear, don't do it. Don't put the voltaics there. Don't build the Kern Center. Reinvest in all your deferred maintenance. And they did not. And now that's why the school is failing. And with this land, if it's a farmer who wants to do it, fine. But this land is you're going on about these historic places or whatever. This land is the most valuable farmland in all of New England. And when I was here, there was this terrible reality where the sustainability report came out and it said, "Oh, New England can't feed itself. You have to import food." And it was hugely demoralizing the sustainability movement. And what they do, they just take this prime land and put voltaics on it. And whatever they're going to do when they do this development they want to do, they're going to expand it. And you can't even walk through there anymore. Terrible.
Okay, now I get it. Now I get it. Thank you very much, Samuel. Pam, can we move Samuel back to the attendees? All right. All right, last chance for comments from board members. All right, we'll go through our vote on this motion of Bruce's to recommend adoption of this bylaw to council and close the hearing. Starting with you, Bruce.
I'm an aye.
Thank you. Fred?
Oh, wait. So, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Fred.
Good. I vote aye.
Thank you. Roy?
Aye.
Thank you. Jara?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. That's 5 members in favor, 2 members absent. The motion carries. We recommend adoption by council and the hearing is now closed. Thank you, Mandy Jo and Andy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good meeting tomorrow night. Thank you for joining us, and I'm sorry we were late getting to you.
Oh, it was interesting. It was gripping.
More to come. Thank you. All right, it's 20 after 7, or after 8 rather. We usually take a break at 8. Why don't we take a 5-minute break and come back? I have 21 minutes after the hour. I'll try to come back by 26 minutes after.
Well, that's what we need. I think we need to have something that goes with right near our.
Right, 10 o'clock.
Well, I don't know where our state and all of that stuff should be. Yeah. Yeah, all of it.
Thanks, which I guess I mean the gospel and history stuff was at the attorneys.
Yeah, but copy it here. No.
Pam and Walker, I'm thinking we should go ahead and move to the A&R application next so that we minimize the length of time Tom needs to sit waiting for it.
Yeah, that seems like a good idea.
Okay. So when Pam's back, I'll ask her to move Tom over. Great. Thank
I
you,
already
Pam.
did. I'm here.
Okay, thanks.
Do we see him yet?
I see him.
Down here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There he
coming
is.
coming into focus, I think. I don't know if he's sitting in his car or what
I
he's doing.
am actually, Doug. Yeah, I'm sitting in the car.
Okay. Sorry that we couldn't bring you any sooner.
Not a problem at all. I understand.
All right. We got everybody but Jara back.
Okay.
Actually, Fred isn't back. Here he comes.
Here's Fred. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Walker, do you want to pull up the A&R plan? If Tom's in his car, it might not be easy for him to do.
Yep.
Okay. What number is that on the agenda?
All right, we've got Jara back, so we're back to full strength for tonight. Time is 8:29, and we're going to move to item 7 on the agenda, which is the Form A&R subdivision applications. We have one A&R, and here to talk about it, I believe, is Tom Reedy, one of our local attorneys.
Thanks, Doug. Hi, everybody. For the record, Tom Reedy, attorney with Bacon Wilson out of Amherst, here to seek endorsement of a pretty simple subdivision at 100 University Drive. And really what's happening is taking the full parcel and dividing it into 2 lots. A lot 1 that meets the dimensional requirements. It will contain 100 University Drive, the building, and then a second lot, lot 2, that contains the rest of the land. And so, just somewhat really simply, it is being done to allow the conveyance of 100 University Drive and the retention of the surrounding land so that that surrounding land could potentially be redeveloped in the future. As you know, it's office park. Probably should be BL, but that's another conversation for another day. And also University Drive Overlay District. And so this is Barry is buying it, and then he's selling lot 1, but he wants to retain lot 2 to give himself the potential to do some additional potential development along University Drive. So the request is simple, just an endorsement of this A&R.
Okay. Walker, I have a question. What are the parking regulations around office buildings? Because it looks like lot 1 is not going to have very much parking for that building.
And if I could, maybe Walker, before you do, so Doug,
Okay,
part of the
Tom.
deal is to ensure that 100 University Drive Lot 1 has a total of 90 parking spaces. So there will be some on site, and then they will also have an easement, a perpetual easement over parking spaces on Lot 2. That easement will be subject to Barry's ability to relocate them should he ever redevelop that rear portion of Lot 2 and want to put up a structure with some units above it. He could relocate those parking spaces. So we've tried to think forward a bit, but we've talked with the building commissioner about that, and he's fine with that approach. So 90 parking spaces is what's being provided, which I think is beyond what's required under zoning.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 3.3 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet gross first floor area. Which I'm not sure we're going to be want to try to calculate off the top of our heads right now, but if the building commissioner is happy with the plan, then it probably meets that requirement.
All right. So board members, the question is whether you agree that this does not require approval as under the subdivision bylaw. I'm seeing lot 1, it has adequate frontage, right? It's got 100 feet, which must be the minimum that's required.
Correct.
Okay, so we've met the frontage requirement. Walker, I guess it sounds like the building inspector hasn't, or building commissioner hasn't seen any issues with this. Are you aware of any, Walker?
I'm not aware of any issues. It seems fine.
Okay, Bruce?
Um, Having the building commissioners having reviewed this and be supportive of it is helpful. It'd be nice if it was communicated in writing. This is the only difference between, as far as I can recall, all of the A&Rs that I've seen come before the board over the years that I've been on it, currently and previously. This seems to be the only one where we have the possibility of creating a non-conformity, which I guess, Doug, was your concern when you asked about parking, right?
Yeah, I was worried that we were creating that lot one was going to be out of compliance with the parking regulations.
Yeah. And so I guess due diligence would suggest that we should be cognizant of all the other regulatory requirements that are attached to a building on a lot, and we're changing the lot size. Um, and in doing so, not creating a non-conforming structure. I guess maybe this is a question: are we empowered to create non-conforming non-conformities with A&Rs? I've never had that. I've never thought of asking that question before.
I don't know that it would be considered non-conforming because for office park, it just says that parking spaces are required to be located within the district. That they don't
I
necessarily.
wasn't thinking
Down
just
the
about
block.
parking. Well, in fact,
Okay.
I was thinking about building coverages and impervious coverages and all of the other setback requirements of the building has to be. My guess is that that's probably been thought through, but as I say, we are unless we're empowered to create non-conforming structures through A&R, it would be nice for us to know that the appropriate analysis that would determine that we aren't creating non-conformities would have been done. And it looks like it's been done by the building commissioner, but this is but it would be nice, as we often have, when we're looking at site plan reviews and so forth, to have a report from the fire brigade, to have a report from the town engineer. Why wouldn't we want to have a report from the building commissioner on the matter of conformity to the and maybe we could ask Tom, I mean, whether I'm being I'm just thinking aloud here, because I haven't been
Well,
asked as a
we
board
haven't had
member
an
to do this,
A&R on commercial office space that I remember.
or one with a building on it.
Yeah.
Or maybe we had one with a building on it, but it's been a farmhouse in South Amherst usually.
Right.
This
So
just looks like a different animal.
So Bruce, two things. One, I'll answer the specifics for this, and
Yep.
it's that everything complies, right? So we went through the trouble of ensuring that frontage, setback, lot coverage, front, rear, side setback, etc., building coverage. That's why the lot is the size that it is because it's in the office park, which, and I don't have the bylaw in front of me, but requires a certain, it has a maximum building coverage that the limited business does not. And so if this lot was in limited business, it actually would be smaller, but it has to be larger in order to satisfy all the dimensional requirements. So to say to you directly, this does satisfy the dimensional requirements. And then I'll back up and say, the board, there's underneath your signature, if you look in the left side of where your endorsement is, it's the planning board's endorsement should not be construed as either an endorsement or approval of the zoning requirements. And so on a technical level, and I've dealt with this, years ago, particularly in Sunderland, but your endorsement is really only to subdivision and not to zoning. That said, a lot of boards ensure that there is that frontage and area, that it meets those dimensional requirements. But your endorsement isn't you affirmatively saying that this complies with zoning. So just to take a little off for you, but I will tell you, my representation is this does comply. That's why we brought it forward the way we brought it forward.
Okay. Tom, are
Okay.
you under high schedule constraints?
Very high schedule constraints.
So
We've
would,
got, so there's a closing happening next week on this parcel, next Wednesday.
Would you be willing to send us or come back with the calculations for the lot coverage, for the building coverage, for the setbacks, to demonstrate to us that we have not acted recklessly?
After endorsement, certainly. And I probably have
All
some.
right.
I mean, you can look in if you zoom in, or if Walker zooms in, you can see so you see frontage is obviously 100 feet. You see the setbacks hauled out, particularly where it's close would be in teal,
Yeah,
which meet the
that's
dimensional.
10 feet. Yeah.
You got it in the front. So that's the front yard setback in the office park. And then you've got the 30 feet on that rear. And I think we just did it to the back of the parking lot. The north and south side, the right and left side are fine. And then I'm sure I have an email from George Cook, the surveyor, showing lot coverage being fine as well.
Well,
But yes, I can get that too.
I think we would be reassured to have that information. All right. I'm going to go to Fred and then Roy and then back to Bruce. Fred?
Yeah, I have shared Bruce's concern, but I think in view of the larger picture, namely this coming Wednesday, I'll support this, and I will be very anxious to read the review that will be forthcoming.
All right. Thanks, Fred. Roy?
Yeah, I have two questions. This is the former Lincoln building, if I'm correct to say. And then this is the first I've seen this. Has anybody seen this before?
No, we have not seen this before. This is I mean, what we're experiencing is how these approval not required requests show up.
Yeah.
We usually have a survey that shows the division of land or the combination of land and some level of dimensional information that usually shows that the parcel is able to be subdivided. When it has frontage, we don't really, it isn't really subject to the subdivision bylaw. So the A&R is pretty straightforward.
So it took me a little while to even figure out where it was. And so, I don't feel comfortable having it put like this and without studying it. And I just want to let everybody know that.
Okay. Bruce.
Doug, I think the salient action here is your signature. So, and I think if I understood Fred that he shares the opinion that I would vote to approve this for your signature. Let's say what we could say conditional upon you receiving or conversing with the building commissioner to confirm what we've been told, that the building commissioner has reviewed this and finds it fine. And that could simply be a phone call from you to him or him to you tomorrow morning, and then you could sign it later in the morning. So it doesn't have to hold up the proceedings if what we've been told is correct. It's just that we're taking it on trust. We're not taking it on trust. It's a second-hand reporting, and I think it would behoove us to have a direct statement from the building commissioner that he's comfortable with this, and that takes the onus off Tom, so forth, because he's apparently already done this with the building commissioner. It's the only link here would be the building commissioner communicating with you. And if you're comfortable signing it, having received that from the building commissioner, I would certainly be comfortable voting to authorize you to sign it conditional upon getting a satisfactory confirmation of what we've been told that the building commissioner has concluded. That would be a motion.
Yep. Okay. Well, we generally don't do motions, but we certainly could.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just want to close the loop with Rob Mora and Tom, if you have information on I think it's the lot coverage that and the building coverage percentages that we're missing from this drawing. I do see the setback front and rear. If you can provide those, that would probably, between that and hearing from Rob, I think I would be fine.
And I've got a plan. I mean, I know it's 20% building coverage. I could show the plan, but it doesn't have lot coverage on it. So I can talk to George Cook and have him update this plan to show what those coverages are: lot coverage, building coverage, and then obviously you see the setbacks. So
yeah,
I can get that to you. I think he's in the office. He didn't respond to me today, but he's usually really responsive.
Okay. So Tom, you could send that to Walker and Walker can pass it along to me.
Sure. I will send George an email tonight.
Okay. And so, it usually takes me a day or two to get into the office to do the signature. So if you're able to do that tomorrow, that'd be great.
I will. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Fred.
Could that be circulated electronically to the planning board members?
I don't know why it couldn't. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's fine by me. I'll get it to Walker, hopefully tomorrow, and then she can circulate it. And then I'll just wait to hear from Walker or Pam as to when the Mylar is signed. And then we'll record it and we'll say thank you very much.
Okay. Walker, just for Roy's benefit, my understanding is that most of these have been reviewed with staff before they get to us. And the most critical aspect of these is usually that there is frontage on a public road. And that if there isn't adequate frontage, or in the case of a residential property, if the dimensions of the lot are inadequate for the circle that's required to fit on the lot, those are sort of the two main issues that we usually think about when we're looking at these. Do you agree with that, or are there other aspects of this that you would encourage us to think about when we look at these?
Yeah, so the way I learned it was that the planning board is essentially looking whether there's frontage or not, because what you're really considering is whether this is an A&R or needs to be a subdivision. You don't have to look at whether it conforms to zoning or not, because that's not your job in this specific situation. In Orange, the planning board made a habit of making sure that they had talked to the building commissioner and that they could inform the applicants if the lot was not going to conform to zoning, but I don't think it's required. But yes, it does get reviewed by the building commissioner and the town engineer and planning staff before it comes to the planning board. So if there are issues other than the subdivision issue, then they usually get raised and dealt with even before the planning board sees the plan.
And it's generally the frontage that
It's usually the frontage, or like you said, the circle. Make sure you have enough space within the lot for a building. Sometimes yeah, there might be a few other things, but that's generally what it is.
Okay, Roy.
So yeah, just because I haven't had a chance to really look at it, I guess my question is the procedural. When the planning was put and given to the building inspector, wouldn't it have been appropriate to give it to the planning board at that time? So we could see
That's,
a copy rather than the last minute.
I guess that's not how A&Rs, I've never done them that way.
Okay.
Because
Like
the
I
planning
said,
board is really just looking at such a specific and limited set of things that you don't really need a ton of time to look at it, I guess is the idea. You're just looking at the frontage essentially and whether it's the size of the lot is appropriate. So,
Yeah,
And,
Roy,
you know,
on a technical level, these are um, almost mandatory approvals that have to happen within 21 days of submission. Non-ministerial is what they call them. That the way the statute's written is that the planning board shall endorse as long as it shows that that frontage. So, I can appreciate where Walker's coming from, but I can also appreciate this, getting it to you guys a little earlier so you can actually contemplate it a little bit. But that's
right.
what the law provides.
Right. Well, I mean, we did get it on Friday in the packet. So, but this is the way they've always been done, I guess is all I can say at the moment. And they're usually not really controversial. I think this is one of the more complicated ones just because it's an office commercial property and it's got a pretty odd shaped lot you're cutting out. Tom, I will ask, our packet also had an email from between you and David Jandro. And I was just curious why that email was needed to be included.
So David Jandro is the current owner.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure
So
if
you're
it was
doing an
asked.
A&R on property you don't own and you wanted the
Correct.
current owner's approval.
Precisely.
Okay.
Yes.
And so Barry is buying the entire lot and then subdividing it.
You've got it. Precisely.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, Roy, your hand is either up again or it's back up. Okay, good. I don't want to cut you off if you had wanted to talk more. All right. So I'm gonna conclude from this conversation that I have at least Fred and Bruce and Jera's approval to go ahead and sign. Roy has some concerns, but I'm not going to let that outweigh the going ahead and signings. And I would like to get the material, Tom, from you tomorrow. And Walker, should I email Rob Mora, or do you want to do that and ask him to, communicate with you and copy me, or
I can do it.
do me directly, however you want to do it?
Yeah, I'll have him reach out to both of us.
Okay. And Tom, your closing is next Wednesday, is that right?
That is correct.
And you would like my signature by then?
Yes. Otherwise, there's no closing.
Okay. Okay. So noted.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Please.
All right.
And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. And
Of course.
thank you, board members. All right, that was an interesting one. Time is 8:53. We'll go back to our regular scheduled agenda here. The next item we had earlier was the general housing discussion. Bruce or Fred, is there anything from the housing subcommittee that you want to talk about tonight? I know we don't have our other member, Jesse.
Nothing. Well, we don't have two. We don't
And
have
I
the
don't
two.
have my brain.
Without Angus, who's got the current topic, and without Jesse, who's the
Okay.
chair, and without having met, I would
Yeah.
say the answer is that we
Okay.
don't really have anything useful to bring to the board.
Okay. Well, I know that on next meeting agenda, we're going to have Roy coming back, having talked to some landlords, and Walker having talked to Rob Mora about the proposed bylaw that Angus drafted. So that's on our next meeting agenda. All right, then we'll move on. Old business not reasonably anticipated. Do we have any? Bruce?
Doug, I wonder whether I'm thinking about the ADU situation and
Yep.
the recent appeal to the zoning board, and I don't know what their decision or even whether they have yet made one. But what I have, as we all have, found is a degree of frustration with this ability to have attics, finished attics, become habitable spaces and not count to gross square footage. It's a quirk that we hadn't admitted, hadn't encountered or hadn't thought of in the whole of the year or so that we were deliberating on this. And I said to you in an email, Doug, that I just couldn't fathom Rob's rather arcane explanation of to why this is the case. But it seems to me, having thought about it more in the interim, that the essence is that the common sense response that we've all had to this is that the gross square footage definition includes it says that it doesn't include crawl spaces, attics, porches, garages, and similar spaces. And I've always thought that kind of defined what an attic was. But I think that where Rob's coming from is that he's saying that we can't use that definition of gross square footage to define attic. And so he comes with a different set of definitions of attic.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that we will have to, unless we want to accept ADUs which are 1,200 square feet instead of 900 square feet, which frankly we didn't think we were approving when we approved this bylaw. And I think when I say we, I don't just mean the planning board. I think I mean the whole town, but I may be wrong. But I think we should deliberate as to whether, one, we want to create a definite or an understanding or clarity in the bylaw that has 900 feet mean 900 feet, and two, whether we can do that and how without running afoul of the state, because that seems to be a part of the rigmarole that we've ruptured ourselves on here, and how we go about doing that if we want to do it. So I would like to register that seems to be a piece of unfinished business, unfinished old business.
Right.
For this
Well, Bruce,
town.
Bruce, I think Walker, isn't somebody on council thinking about this? Isn't CRC thinking about this and coming up with an amendment to the bylaw?
There are a couple of council members that have proposed an amendment to the bylaw that is going to be referred to CRC and the planning board in the near future. So you will be seeing one proposal at least for a way to amend this.
Okay, that's good enough for me.
And
for
so,
now.
Bruce, I think that'll get the ball rolling and it'll come to
Yeah.
us fairly quickly.
Indeed. Thank you.
Okay. Fred.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo that, and I'm delighted to hear that that is being picked up. This is a major issue in town, and it has, I can tell you in my own neighborhood, it has resulted in several people electing to sell their properties and move out of Amherst. This is a major issue.
All right. Thank you, Fred. All right. I guess that's the only old business that that people wanted to bring up. Any new business not anticipated? Pam or Walker? Or Bruce? All right, we've done the Form A in our subdivision topic for tonight. And upcoming ZBA applications. Any new applications that we might want to hear about before they get to ZBA?
I don't have a report. Walker?
I think there are a couple, but the way the ZBA is being handled right now is a little haphazard, and I'm not up on the latest of what the projects are that the ZBA is looking at. But I can try to check in with Jeff at least
Okay.
before your next
Yeah,
meeting so that
well,
we can
that
get a
is
better
something
handle
that
on
we
it.
like to
Yeah,
kind
and I think
of
it's
hear
just been
about, so that we don't get too far behind the curve if they're doing something interesting.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a hassle to try to staff the ZBA at the moment. So, but yeah, I'll talk to him.
Okay, well, do your best.
Mhm.
Upcoming SPP, SPR, SUB applications. Anything on the horizon that we might? Nope. All right. Okay, so it's 9 o'clock. We're up to planning board committee and liaison reports. Bruce, anything for PVPC?
No meeting.
Okay. Roy, have you had any action on CPAC?
No meetings.
Okay. And I'm still listed for design review board, but as far as I know, I'm still not on the design review board. And given that I only have a year left on the board, I'm not sure it's worth waiting for me to get on the design review board for just a few months. So we might want to think about whether anybody else wants to take this role and then they can stay with it a little longer. Walker, do you have any sense of why it's taking so long to get me appointed?
I think it's the same. DRB was also being staffed by Jacinta, so Jeff's trying to also figure out what to do about DRB, and it's just he's been very overwhelmed.
Okay.
I know he's aware that you should be on the list. It just hasn't quite moved to the next stage yet.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll leave it up to you and Pam as to whether to leave my name on these agendas because
I can check with him about that too.
It's a little misleading at the moment. And I don't know that we really need to talk about why I'm not on it every month or every meeting. Okay, I don't have a report of chair. Anything in terms of report of staff that you want to talk about? I guess I could ask, when do you think, is it still September that you think the East Amherst study consultant will be ready to come to us?
I think so, but we are planning an August site visit where they're going to come out and walk around the site. And I was going to invite you, Doug, and you, Jera, because you had expressed interest in being a little more involved in the project. And I'll be there, and I think Jeff might be coming, and they'll have an opportunity to ask questions and kind of just see the area before they start their process.
All right. Anything else on report of staff?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Anything else from anyone? Nope. All right. Time is 9:02, and it sounds like we are adjourned. Thank you all. Our next meeting is the 17th at 6:30, as far as I
19th.
know.
I believe it's not the 19th, but yeah.
The 19th? Oh yeah, you're right.
Oh yeah, it is.
It's too late for me to add 14 to 5, I guess.
I only knew that because my kid's birthday's on the 17th, so I knew it was Monday.
Okay.
Happy early birthday.
Thanks.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Hey, everyone.
Oops. Stop the recording. Should stop the recording.